shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Behave yourselves!
Hello YouTubers out there, this is Jerry Saravia at the movies. So there is apparently a Star Wars show that was going to be called The Acolyte, and that was cancelled by the Walt Disney Company, and apparently they fired the creator, they fired everybody. So I came across this channel by a good guy. I mean, he's a good guy, it's nothing against him personally. Tyrone Magnus, who I believe is also an actor, has appeared in some stuff. And he was talking about this. That's how I first came across this news in the first place. And, you know, there's way too much Star Wars anyway, so this is not really a concern of mine that there's a new Star Wars show has been canceled. I could care less anymore. But it's got nothing to do with the reasons that he dictated. And what he said basically was that, you know what, I want entertainment to be the way it once was. I just want to be entertained. That's it. I don't want any woke politics. I don't want a film promoting an agenda of any kind. Now, entertainment in general, throughout cinema history, always in some way, subtle or not so subtle, promotes an agenda. Now it depends what kind of entertainment we're talking about. If you're talking about Star Wars in particular, why don't we illustrate the most glaring example, which is the fact that the Star Wars prequel trilogy, as evidenced by what George Lucas said, was not only were the stories political, they were meant to address the politics of the time when Bush was in office, George W. Bush. And he made that very clear. So Star Wars, even now close to almost 20 years ago since a little over 20 years ago really, since the prequels began, which they did in 1999, were always promoting some sort of a political agenda. But the thing about this show, the Star Wars The Acolyte, is according to what Lucasfilm had said prior to its cancellation, was going to introduce one of the most diverse casts to date, and comes after the award-winning Andor that starred in Star Wars' first ever prominent lesbian couple. I haven't seen Andor, so I can't really comment on that. British actress Abigail Thorne was due to play Ensign Iris in The Acolyte, making her Star Wars' first ever transgender actor in a non-minor role. And this includes an exclusive list of transgender actresses who have starred in Lucasfilm project, becoming the second ever trans actor after Talisa Garcia, who was cast in the Willow show, which I did not see. It would occur to me that probably Star Wars would highlight these things, but not in a way that would be part of the story, right? So more than likely that even though you have either a lesbian couple or a transgender, I don't think that in a Star Wars show they're going to say, oh, my name is so-and-so, I'm transgender. I don't think it would be written that way. Which I think most of you agree would not be really the best way to write such a thing. But the thing is this guy in particular seems to be objecting to that. Now, what if it, I guess what I'm saying is, what difference does it really make? Because whether you're transgender, you're part of the LGBTQ community, or you're some other gender or non-binary or whatever, why should that make any difference? If they're not stressing it in the show, and they've just been cast because Lucasfilm wants to have a diverse array of new characters and break new ground for LGBTQIA plus representation, let them. That's nothing wrong with that. It sounds to me like this show in particular, The Acolyte, was going to have It was going to be set at the end of the High Republic era, before the events of the main Star Wars films. that it would be approximately 100 years before Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and that a former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipate. Actually, this sounds pretty good, even though, again, I'm not as much of a Star Wars fan anymore as I used to be. This would have been an 8-episode series that would have been released in Disney Plus in 2024. But, of course, now it's been canceled. And this was created by Leslie Headland. And nothing in their mission statement that I can see other than casting non-binary or transgender, nothing in it in terms of the plot of this series indicates that that is largely the reason they did it. Nothing in it suggests that. It's just these are events that take place long before Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. But art in general, unless you don't consider this art, in which case that's open for discussion, but entertainment in general always promotes some sort of agenda. You can't really escape it. You know, you can't, you could try to create something that's completely brainless, that has nothing to do with the world that you live in currently, that doesn't reflect anything about the world that you live in. But why would you want to do that? All art in general, even in entertainment, even like, for example, Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando, what an example to highlight, from 1985. His character is kind of like the Black Ops, you know, sort of an assassin, and this dictator wants him to kill this other dictator that would take his place in this unnamed Central American country. That sounds political to me already. Just because it doesn't, it's not an Oliver Stone polemic, doesn't mean that you suddenly just, that it's less political. It's political. It's just different types of politics. You know, we have all different types of politics in films. Left-wing politics, right-wing politics, apolitical sometimes. Sometimes it is apolitical. Top Gun Maverick to me is an apolitical movie. I mean, it's jingoistic, you know, and sometimes that sends the wrong message. I'm not saying you have to criticize everything in terms of policies or whatever in a movie, but that to me is pretty much what people want. They want Top Gun Maverick. They want an apolitical movie. They don't want someone like Maverick being harassed or pushed by somebody who's transgender or a female even though, of course, he encountered that sort of in the first Top Gun, didn't he? I mean, he dealt with Kelly McGillis. And granted, she was not transgender, but that's not the point. Women always come up. So if you want your movies to not reflect anything that's going on in the world, especially LGBTQIA, genders, what have you, then what about the entertainment of the past? Are you telling me that none of it reflected the world that was set in? I mean, any movies from 1980s didn't reflect the times in some way? Of course they always do. So it's silly to say that. But really the bigger issue I would have with Star Wars is not something that Tyrone Magnus apparently says. He just says, I'm avoiding anything by, or I'm not going to care about what Disney puts out. The issue should be enough of Star Wars. That's all. There's too much of it. Allow time to break away from it and develop other types of projects. And they cancel this one, so who knows. Anyway, those are my thoughts on it. Tell me what you think. Do you care about this Star Wars The Acolyte? Do you think there's too much Star Wars? Do we need more Star Wars movies with Rey, for example, which, again, is not a bad thing because I sort of like that character, but, you know, Star Wars fans hate her, it seems. The majority, perhaps, maybe on Twitter, I don't know. But let me your thoughts. Tell me what you think, and if you like what you hear, please subscribe to my channel. And this is Jerry Saravia at the Movies, signing off.